Hello. Hey, welcome back. So I got this large chunk of oak that somebody wants as a tabletop. She measures 21 by 24-ish, so it's a pretty good sized little piece of oak. I already have it leveled, sort of. What I've done is found the low spot, which is right in here, and then made sure everything else is higher. And I got it hot glued and scrap wood shimmed to the table. So what I need to do now is make a little frame and a little sled so I can run the router, get it pretty level, flip it over, run the router, and make a table. Now, because I don't flatten out chunks of wood like that very often, I'm not going to go through the process of making a huge drawn out frame, one that I can reuse and adjust and blah blah blah. I'm just going to zap a couple pocket holes in here, and then I'm going to screw it directly to the workbench. Only thing you got to make sure is, like I said, it's taller than the highest part of your wood, and that you're going to be able to, and it's longer than whatever block it is you're working on. I don't have a guide bushing big enough to hold my biggest flat bottom bit, so I just really roughly routed a groove in here for my slide. I have two little cleats, one on each side, to hold it. Where are you? To hold it pretty straight, and you know, it doesn't give me any wiggle, so I can move it back and forth, lowering the bit as I go or as needed. So I'm going to be very messy. It's going to be very loud. It's going to be very dusty. So put your face shield on, put your safety squints engaged, and actually don't use good proper safety glasses and hearing protection, and make a mess. Alright, so now that we have this side done, I love hot glue because it's usually good enough to hold something, but not so good that it takes a huge amount of effort to break. Come on, you knew there was going to be something that messed with me. Alright, so now that we got all that set up, gave the hot glue some time to dry, it's time to put our safety equipment back on and do the other side. Man, my sinuses are kicking. I've looked at both sides. I think this is going to be the top side. I was going to use some bow ties to fill in the cracks, or to help keep it from you know, exploding. Leaving the through hole, I'm going to use some epoxy with some black fill. Fill these in. So I'm going to tape up the bottom really well. Alright, got some epoxy mixed up. I'm going to use some India ink to make it black. This is going to take a couple pours, I'm sure. So the through holes, they look like they're holding pretty steady. I am a little concerned about the bleed through if the India ink is going to stain a lot of the wood, because you know it's oak, so it's real porous. Worst case scenario, I have to bust out the make that little sled again and then, you know, run the router down, but I'm not that scared yet. All right, so today is tomorrow. No, today is yesterday's tomorrow. Yeah, you know how it goes. So it's been sitting overnight. I've got 4 videos, 6 projects, and the shop is an absolute disaster. So remember when I said I don't flatten out boards like that very often? So I didn't need a nice thing. Anyway, see that big chunk of walnut right there? Yep, I gotta make a table out of that too. So, and I got another one over there I gotta do. So I guess I should have taken the time the first time, but I didn't. Oh, look at this little bowl. It's gonna be an upcoming video. I don't know which one will be first. So anyway, now that we got the formalities out of the way, let's take a look and see what we got going on with this little chunk. So we did have some bleed out, but not a lot. Well, I don't know if you can tell, but I did go ahead and put the sled back up, and I ran through the grits, made sure to get the sides round over. It is smooth. I didn't get all the tear out and all the lines out because I didn't want to. I think once we get some finish on there, it's going to look great. Now let's talk about the top coat, or the first of many top coats. Now I'm going to start with some shellac. Now if you're wondering why I'm starting with shellac, it's because it dries really fast. It's going to absorb into the pores, and it's going to give me a good base to start putting the actual top coat on. I think she wants a satin finish on here, and if I was just to start with the poly, it's gonna soak all the way through, and I'm talking probably a gallon worth of poly if I just did the poly. Where the shellac is it's gonna soak in, but it's not gonna soak in near as deep, and it's gonna dry really fast. So the moment of truth, let's see what she's gonna look like. Oh yeah, look at that. Okay, so I'm gonna put 2 or 3 coats on this. Let it dry really well. Flip it over, do the bottom side. But you can just see it. I mean, it's just sucking it up like a straw. Oh, that's a good shot. So this has got, between the top and the bottom, it has well over 3/4 of a can So, and that was a brand new can. So you can tell how much it sucked up. And look at this dry spot right here. Of course it's, you know, good and shiny where the fill was, but so like I said, that's why I use shellac first before I go to the poly. Shellac is a lot thicker and it won't suck up near as much. All right, so it's day 3. All we have to do today is just sand it down, you know, get it smooth, put the top coat on, let that dry. You're asking why it's taking 3 days. Had to wait for the epoxy to set. That took, you know, a day. I think I filled it. I had to wait. I waited about 4 hours in between each pour. I had 4 pours on it. Yeah, then waiting for, you know, shellac to dry in between coats. The actual work process didn't take very long. She did have 4 legs to put on there. 4 legs would just look odd, so I went with the 3-leg look. So right now I'm gonna finish my coffee and then we'll sand her down. All right, got her sanded down just with some 220. All that does is knock off the, you know, ridges and little bubbles from applying the shellac. So now we're going to use some clear satin spar urethane. That's why I'm doing this. It's important to do the underside of natural wood products pretty close to the same as you do the top side, so it absorbs moisture at the same rate. If you just do the top and don't do the bottom, then the bottom's going to absorb a lot more moisture and it'll make it cup and bow and split. And so keep that in mind when you're doing your little table. All right, so here she is. 3 legs instead of 4. It stands. What does it stand? Where's my tape measure? It stands 22.5. Does the shape remind you of anything? Is it just me? What if I do this? Oh, she's got some gravity. Yeah, I like it. It's not completely dry yet, so I shouldn't be putting my fingerprints all over it. Cool. Sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you like the content, make sure you share it around different places. That really helps us out a lot. And yeah, have a wonderful day. We'll see you next week with that cool bowl. Or maybe Tuesday. Or maybe you saw that last week. I don't know. Anyway, have a wonderful day. So I know someone's gonna ask why so many layers of everything do I put on here? Oak is very porous. The grain is wide open. It acts like a straw. Since this is all in grain, when the kids spill grape juice on there, and what I mean by kids spilling grape juice is when, you know, she has her friends over and they have glasses of wine hanging out and they decide to start doing the Macarena or something and knock a glass of wine over. We don't want the grape juice to get down in the pores, stain it, causing me to have to resand it and refinish. So That's why there's so many layers on here. Got my coffee, gotta wake up a little bit. Fix my hair. Paige, there's your table.